Hi, you're listening to Stepan Snigirev podcast. Today, for episode 231, are you thinking about creating a hardware wallet? And how would this work if you wanted to do this as part of a multi-signature quorum? Well, Stepan Snigirev is rejoining me. He's the CTO of Crypto Advance, and he's a very well-known hardware wallet maker in the space. And we talk about Specter DIY. So we talk about why make your own, security model versus other hardware wallets, airgapping with QR codes, how to use this as part of a multi-signature setup, as well as some updates on Specter Desktop. Also, Stepan has an announcement about the Specter Solutions web store, so listen out for that one. This show brought to you by swanbitcoin.com, the best place to auto-stack your BTC in the US with incredibly easy setup and low fees. They have recently announced availability in New York, so Swan is available in all 50 US states. They've got a range of new features too, like XPub support by Gigi, so you might want to get a hardware wallet and use that to automatically withdraw to a new address every time. Swan's service is built around regular stacking, but if you want to wire money in for a special smash buy, support is coming very soon. They're Bitcoin only, they're focused on teaching people to self-custody, so you should send all your new coiner friends there. This is a company focused on helping customers stack sats safely and easily. Go to swanbitcoin.com/New York to sign up. This show also sponsored by CipherSafe, CipherSafe.io, producing the Cipher Wheel product. So we're talking about multi-signature and security and backups. Well, make sure you have invested in backing up your BIP39 seed in a way that is fireproof, waterproof, rustproof, petproof, and tamper-evident. The Cipher Wheel is a metal backup product coming in a wheel shape, and it masks the words of your seed. And it's also got a padlock tamper-evident seal, so you know if it's been opened. So make sure you or your loved ones have access to your bitcoins if an accident occurs. Go and order yours at CipherSafe.io and use the code LAVERA for a discount. Nox is a Bitcoin custodian dedicated to ensuring their insurance protection covers the full value of their customers' assets. For example, suppose a fiduciary wants to hold $250 million of Bitcoin with Nox. Nox will seek to obtain $250 million of insurance dedicated exclusively to that account and adjustable to volatility. No fractional coverage or narrow scope. Insurance for what it's worth. A tool to transfer risk. If you are a Bitcoin company, investment fund, trust, or family office, check out Nox for your insured custody. That is noxcustody.com. Stepan, welcome back to the show.
Thank you, Stefan, for having me. Happy to be here again.
Yeah, so I see you and Ben and the team and Moritz at Crypto Advance have been doing an excellent job with Specter Desktop and also Specter DIY. So I'm excited to chat a little bit about this. So can you tell us a little bit about why you went about doing this project?
So I'm very happy that I actually here now. It's like a perfect timing because we just made a new release of Spectre DIY. But yeah, first about why. Basically, I think that more hardware wallets is better, and more different security models is also better. Originally, we started designing Spectre DIY as one of the multi-signature cosigners for your host for your cold storage. And we also wanted to make the security model flexible because normally with hardware wallet vendors, what you have is what they decide is good for you. And our idea was to make it more like a developer tool and also a tweakable hardware wallet, let's say a first hackable hardware wallet, even though it sounds terrible. That you can actually adjust according to your security model.
Yeah, so you mean hacking in the good way, right? Hacking in the
Hacking in
I'm
a good
toying
way.
around as opposed to I'm attacking you and stealing the secret out of this hardware wallet kind of way, right?
So it's more like tweaking it according to how you feel more comfortable. Yeah.
Yeah, so
Uh,
can you just give us a bit of a background for listeners who are not familiar? What is it? What does it look like? What are some of the kind of key points to note about this?
The main idea was that first we wanted to avoid supply chain attacks. So we started developing it from off-the-shelf components, and as a base we use developer boards by STM Microelectronics. So it is a pretty nice board with a largish screen, and the microcontroller is pretty capable, but pretty much similar to the microcontrollers that run on Trezor, Ledger, and Cold Card, basically on all of the hardware wallets. And then, because I'm paranoid, I also thought that it would be nice to have a good air gap and still convenient. So we decided to add a QR code scanner. And at the moment, what we have is this discovery board plus the QR code scanner. So we can be completely air gapped, and we have a full control of the data flow. So yeah, QR codes are very, very limited in amount of data that it can transfer, but also you have better control. So like either you're scanning or you scan it back. So you control everything, and you can stop if something doesn't look right. And recently we also added support for secure elements, because well, better to have an option to have a secure element, and we do it with Java cards. So these are basically these plastic cards that you normally use for your government IDs, for banking cards, and all of these kind of things. And you can actually program it if you buy one also off the shelf. You can program it to do what you want. And we developed a Java card applet for that as well, such that you can, even with all this DIY approach, you can still have some hardware security. Yes.
Great. So with the Java card, what's required to make it able to read that? Do you need another part to add to the kit, or how does it work?
Yes. So unfortunately, we were not able to find extension boards on the market that supports this smart card slot. So we had to design our own, and this slightly ruins the idea of only off-the-shelf components. But as I said, Spectre is made very flexible, so you don't have to use them. And yeah, so what we currently did, we manufactured a bunch of these extension boards, and we are putting them online on the web shop so people can actually get them. But again, it's not critical. I mean, it's nice to have, but it doesn't must to have, right? So you can live without it as well.
I see, yeah. And so, just for listeners who might not have seen this before, there are some videos floating around on Twitter and on the internet around how to make this and what it looks like. But essentially, it's kind of iPhone sized, and it's got a screen, and it's also got the QR. So that's just so you have a rough idea if you haven't seen roughly what it looks like and stuff. So, can you just talk us through what's the process look like if you want to make one?
So in our GitHub repository that I think that we will link in the description, we have a document called shopping, where we basically list all the parts that you need to buy. You need to buy this discovery board, and they are available in many electronic shops like Mouse or DigiKey. Then the QR code scanner, it is a little bit longer to wait because they are coming from China. But they're also not security critical because it is basically a dedicated thing that only captures images and transfers this data to the main microcontroller. And in principle, the only extra thing that you need is the pins to connect the wires. And these are also like 20 cents or so in any electronic store. And for full air gaps and to make it like self-contained, you probably want to add a power bank. So the board can be powered from one of USB ports, taking a normal 5 volts from the power bank. So basically 3 components that you can put together without any soldering. Makes sense to use some duct tape to connect it all together. But if you have nice soldering skills, then you can also make it a little bit more fancy. So like the very first early prototype that I made, I just put together in a day prototype board where I had a battery and the QR code scanner, everything wired and connected to this Arduino compatible headers directly. So then it is a little bit more compact and easier to use. Yeah.
Great. And can you give us an idea of the cost involved?
So I think that the discovery board is around $60. QR code scanner is around 40. Power bank, I have no idea. Probably people have power banks lying around at home, so let's say it's free. So in principle, in $100 you can get the device fully assembled. Then probably you want to add some cost for the 3D printed enclosure or something. And it's very nice to see that people in the community are actually building these enclosures and putting them online as well. So you can either download files or buy directly from them. Yeah, so this is like 100. And if you are talking about our developer kits, that this extension board that includes both the battery and the QR code scanner and the smart card slot, then I think it's around 90, if I remember correctly. Yeah, something like that. So then it will be a little bit more expensive, but also you will have a possibility to have a secure element.
Great, great. And so, how would you compare this kind of wallet versus some of the other hardware wallets that are out there? Some, like Trezor and Ledger and Coldcard and so on.
Okay, so first we introduced a few different modes of operation of this hardware wallet. So, for example, with Trezor and Ledger and Coldcard, the only way how you use them is how they are designed. So, Trezor stores the secret on the microcontroller. Coldcard stores it on the secure element, but gets the secret every time when you want to do any cryptography. And Ledger does the other way around, that all the cryptography is happening on the secure element and the secret stays there. So in our model, we have different options. So first, when you turn on the device and you enter your recovery phrase, it doesn't actually save the recovery phrase. So then it operates in, let's say, amnesic mode. So whenever you turn off the device, it just forgets the secret. And it's pretty hard to hack something that doesn't store the secret. So if you remember your recovery phrase, for example, then you don't really need to store the secret anywhere. You just retype it every time when you turn on the device. Then the second is more like Trezor security model. So you can save the secret on the microcontroller itself, on the this application microcontroller. But this is how we call it reckless mode, because application microcontrollers are pretty easy to hack, and you probably also saw plenty of hacks on Trezors mostly. I mean, Trezor is great, but this is what you can do with fully open source microcontroller. Then another option that we added recently is SD card support. So basically, when you insert your SD card into the device, and you can store your secret encrypted on this SD card. And then, for example, you can keep your hardware wallet at home and you always take your SD card with you. And only when you have both of these pieces together, then you have access to secret, because it requires both the part of the secret, encryption secret, that is stored on the device and the SD card that actually stores your Bitcoin private key encrypted. So this is more like something in between Trezor and Coldcard, I would say. Hard to really align them. Yeah. And then with Java cards, we have two applets now. One, if you don't trust Java cards because they are using proprietary Java card OS, and then our open source applet is built on top of that. Then you can use the model similar to cold card when your secret is stored on this secure element, but it is also encrypted. It is pin protected, but you need the device to get the secret out, and you do all the cryptography on the main microcontroller. And then the last one is more like ledger security model, where you can put your secret on the Java card, and all the crypto is also happening there, and then there is no way to get the secret out of the secure element. So trying to cover all possible security models, and everybody can decide what fits better for them.
I see, yeah. And I suppose this is one of those points where, depending on how you are using the device, like, for example, you might do it in a more, let's say, reckless way. But if you're doing it as part of a multi-signature quorum, well, then maybe that makes sense for you, depending on how you're thinking about your security, versus if you were, to try using this maybe for like small amounts as kind of like a more single signature, small amount kind of warm wallet thing. Maybe that would make sense for you.
Yeah, this is actually how I use it. So I have one of Bitcoin keys that is saved on the device that I use for, not everyday spending, but spending from time to time. And then I also have my recovery phrase, that I remember, that I use in the multi-signature setup with other hardware wallets. And actually, Specter Desktop appeared as a tool for this cooperation between, creating the multi-signature, coordination of the multi-signature between wallets, because we started designing it as a multi-signature cosigner. And so we just needed a tool that will be able to work with other hardware wallets as well. A few other things that kind of what we make slightly differently comparing from other hardware wallets. So Airgapped is nothing new now, because we have already Koba that is also using QR codes for communication. Cold Card is a pioneer of Airgap, so they use SD cards. Ours is also Airgapped. And then another thing is we are using Bitcoin Core's library lipsec P256K1. And everybody else, as far as I know, uses something different. So Trezor and Cold Card use Trezor's cryptographic library. And Ledger uses their hardware accelerated elliptic curve implementation, probably. So here we have also something different on the cryptography side. So that also helps for this multi-signature, because more your hardware wallet, if your hardware wallets are very, very different, then the probability of hacking all of them goes to zero, basically.
Actually, one other point I wanted to go back to, just with the QR codes. What's your thought on, well, first of all, how much data you can transfer through a QR code? And maybe you just want to tell us a little bit about the use now of like animated or GIF QR codes as opposed to just the standalone QR codes. Have you found that to be a better experience or more like easy to make it work?
So it is really great. So I want to mention that Christopher Allen is doing a really great job with his team standardizing these animated QR codes, dynamic QR codes, and this is really great, because then you don't have a limit on the amount of data that you can transfer. So you just keep scanning a large PSBT without any problems. What is tricky is when you are using QR codes, then you need to process an image, and then you need a pretty large image processing library somewhere that does it for you, and then more code means larger attack surface. So what we decided to do, instead of using a camera and displaying the image that you are scanning on the screen, that would be much more convenient from the user perspective. But we decided to go other way around. So we have a dedicated QR code scanning module that has a separate microcontroller that does all the image processing, and then sends the data that it scanned to the main microcontroller over a very simple UART serial interface. So then we kind of decouple this additional attack surface from the main microcontroller that is controlling the secrets to a dedicated one. So I would say that it is a reasonable trade-off in terms of security. And also we use a slightly modified PSBT transaction format. So like it is PSBT, but in order to decrease the amount of data that we are sending back and forth, we actually use some proprietary fields that are specified so in PSBT standard you can use certain proprietary fields to tell the hardware wallet what wallet to use. So I mean, you don't need to pass a lot of data if you know that the hardware wallet knows about the wallet. You don't need derivation paths for every cosigner. You don't need XPubs. You don't need witness scripts. You don't need many things. If you assume that the hardware wallet knows about the wallet. Our approach here is that you set up the device and tell the device that, okay, this is the wallet that I want to use. It is, for example, 7 of 11 multisig. Now whenever I want to sign for this wallet, I just can say the hardware wallet, okay, use this wallet, and you know how to derive everything for that. And this is just the last two indexes of the derivation path that you need. Otherwise, you figure out everything yourself. And when we tried this, we actually saw that in 90% of cases, everything fits in one pretty small QR code. So that's also nice. So then you have one QR code in one direction and one QR code in another direction.
Yeah. Also, I'm curious around whether you see any kind of the flip side, the risks around QR codes, and whether that could be used to maybe, I don't know the exact term, but maybe some kind of malformed QR or some kind of malware or some kind of maybe sort of kind of like a SQL injection attack, that kind of thing. Is that sort of thing possible with this approach of using QR codes? Is that possible?
This is a threat. If you are processing QR codes on the security critical microcontroller, and as we separated it in a different one, I think it's less of a threat. But also, I mean, I can say the same about SD cards. So if there is a malformed SD card that is communicating with the main microcontroller and prepares malicious packets pretending that it is sending the file data, you can also get the same. So I don't think that there is any communication channel that is perfect in that sense. And just need to be tested, and better if it is like really limited and one unidirectional. Yeah, so SD card and QR codes, in my opinion, are roughly on the same risk area.
I see. And just to clarify there, so as an example, let's say it was some kind of malformed, image or malformed SD card, malware kind of thing. In that sort of scenario, could it basically trick the hardware wallet into thinking it's signing, to the same address? Like, as an example, I'm sending to address, 123, and like on the hardware wallet device, would it still show that? Or what we're getting at here is essentially it could be malformed in such a way that it shows, 456 instead of 123. You get what I'm asking?
I understand. So I think there are more chances to trick the hardware wallet not by using malicious QR code or SD card, but instead just by exploiting some vulnerabilities in the PSBT transaction parsing or something. If, for example, the hardware wallet doesn't verify the PSBT properly, in principle, there is still a risk that you get arbitrary untrusted data from the host or from somewhere, and there could be some overflows, and maybe that can be escalated in arbitrary code execution. And if you have arbitrary code execution, then it can do whatever you want with whatever it wants with the microcontroller, basically. But I think that if we put enough efforts into actually checking this particular piece, so like we really need to make sure that the data that we are getting from the host should be completely untrusted and verified with many ways. So like the size, the data fields, the format, everything. And if you put a lot of effort into this piece, then you are pretty safe. So this is like the largest attack surface because you're getting some random data from the host. So I mean, in that sense, if you have limited data flow, it is better.
Yeah,
But
I see.
it is still
And,
a risk, sure.
right, I see. Yeah, and look, I think in fairness as well, it's one of those things where you can talk about some kind of more obscure kind of attacks, but ultimately we shouldn't let that stop us from taking additional, taking steps to improve our security. And if by using this additional device we can start using multi-signature, well then you kind of have to take the good with the bad, right? And if it's an overall net improvement, well then I think that's a fair way of looking at it. And I think it's also really cool to point out as well that when you do these QR scan PSBTs, it's actually a really excellent experience. Like I've tried it with Specter Desktop and using like the Kobo QR back and forth, and it's like really really cool to see the kind of scan the QR and sign it, and then basically flip the screen back, and now you're showing the QR of the signed PSBT, and then Spectre Desktop can now take that, and then now that's ready to, that's another signature. So it's a really cool experience for the user as well. So that's also something that listeners can consider there also.
Yes, it is also very convenient. Like even if you have, for example, Spectre desktop on your mobile, then you can use this QR code scanning, like a simple flip and flip procedure, and you don't need to connect anything to the USB of your phone. So you don't need all this communication with USB hardware wallet. So it's also easier to much easier to just to use this kind of hardware wallet.
Yeah, and actually, I'm also thinking of in the older days when people used to use the whole Armory offline, which I'm sure you probably are familiar with also, Stepan. But I know I've heard of stories where people were trying to use like a laptop with another laptop to try and scan the QR off like an Armory offline sort of style setup. And now, obviously, in November 2020, we're much more advanced with that. And now we've actually got devices that can do that for us. So that's actually very handy also.
Yeah, but you still can do laptops. I mean, if you don't trust hardware wallets, you can actually use AirGap laptop. And we tried it recently with Spectre Desktop. So you can have a Spectre Desktop with Bitcoin Core running on the AirGap machine and used as a signer, and another laptop that is connected to the internet used as a coordinator.
The online, yeah.
Yeah, and it looks ridiculous when you try to scan QR code on one laptop using another laptop. So it's like this laptop sandwich, but it works. Yeah. So, and I think that there might be people that find it more useful and more confident to use this kind of setup.
Back to the show in a moment after a word for the sponsors. Lend at HODL is a global, non-custodial, Bitcoin-backed lending platform that allows you to lend and borrow anonymously on your own terms. HODL offers a P2P lending solution, ensuring a secure and transparent collateral storage system by providing unique multi-sig escrow for each deal. This is a way to grow your savings and earn attractive returns on your investment. So if you have any stablecoins lying around, create your offers and earn interest by lending on Lend at HODL. Or if you are a Bitcoiner and need some liquidity, you can borrow stablecoins and keep hodling. With HODL's Lend platform, you set your own terms and put up offers depending on how long you want to borrow or lend and interest rates. Go and check it out at lend.hodlhodl.com. And lastly, Unchained Capital is building Bitcoin native financial services on a foundation of multi-signature. Their multi-sig vaults are designed for ultra-secure long-term storage and have no setup or storage fees if you build them on your own. If you want the white glove treatment, their team will teach you all about multi-signature, ship you 2 hardware wallets, answer all of your questions, and then deposit $1,000 of Bitcoin in your vault through their concierge service. You can buy Bitcoin through their OTC desk for purchases $50,000 or higher straight into your new vault, which is great for Bitcoin self-directed retirement accounts and for companies moving Bitcoin to Treasury. Their advanced business accounts, OTC desk, and concierge service can also help move your corporate Treasury to Bitcoin, where your team controls the private keys. Check them out and enter code Livera when ordering a concierge onboarding service to get $50 off. Check out unchained-capital.com for more. One other point, actually, just on QRs, I've noticed in some cases it can be difficult if you've got a bad webcam, for example. Like sometimes, depending on what laptop or computer you're using, sometimes it's like hard to do the QR stuff if like the webcam on it's like a old, crappy laptop. Sometimes the webcam is a bit difficult. Have you seen that kind of thing, or is it more like in your experience it's actually worked pretty consistently?
Especially if you have a very shitty webcam and you are, for example, it's late in the evening, so your lights are dim in the room, then you might have problems scanning the QR codes. So it can be solved. So we have this feature similar to what Kobo has, like you swipe or click on the QR code and it goes full screen with a white background, then the webcam handles it easier. But still, sometimes there are problems. Yeah, so we are trying to solve it. So you need to reduce the QR code frame size, for example, and then have more sequential QR codes to get it scanning more reliably. I don't really know what you can do with it. The only thing that we can do, we can use a laptop with a very bad webcam ourselves and try to find a way to make it working. Yeah, so I'm lucky in that sense. I have a very crappy webcam. Yeah.
Well, he's going the extra mile. And I think the other big point of this, like the whole point, one of the points of this Specter DIY device is the idea of trying to remove supply chain risks. So how much supply chain risk do you see with, let's say, the other hardware wallets? And potentially, this is something that, okay, so let's say over the next year or two, there's a big bull market and, it kind of goes crazy and it's hard to, we start seeing a lot of those resellers of the fake Trezors or whatever. I guess that's the kind of risk that we could see in terms of supply chain. We might see more and more people try to do that kind of fake hardware wallet attack, right?
I think that there were already a few attacks like that. So I do remember that there were there was a shop of like a reseller of the ledger on Amazon that was shipping the device with already pre-initialized recovery phrase. So the guy just wrote down the recovery phrase on the recovery sheet and was shipping it with the recovery sheet that he obviously knows. So these kind of things. I think with Trezor it might happen as well at some point, but at the moment this attacks are very simple, and if you just keep a few simple rules like only order the device from directly from the vendor, so from the web shop of Trezor, Ledger, Codecard, and so on, then it's much harder to perform this kind of attack. There is still a possibility that some DHL delivery guy will take your device and open it and do something with it or replace it. But I think that at the moment we are not at this stage, but I am expecting that something like that may happen in the future. Yeah, so there is a risk, but everybody should be careful. Yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair, it's not just that risk as well of coming from the hardware wallet, but it to the customer, but it could also be an upstream supply risk. So it could be unknown to that actual hardware wallet manufacturer.
So yeah, if the hardware wallet is manufactured somewhere like outsourced, then this factory workers can also do something with the chips, and it is also a little bit scary. But as far as I know, Ledger and Trezor are manufacturing all the wallets in-house, so like in Czech Republic and in France. So they kind of have a better control of the manufacturing process. And that's good that they're taking this step. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. And so, in terms of, I guess, the downsides of this wallet, I guess you would say it's relatively new. It's it still kind of needs a bit of time to be battle tested. But do you have any other views to share on that?
Yeah, so that's definitely true. So the project is pretty immature. So the team is pretty small. So at the moment, I'm working on all the high-level logic of Spectre DIY, and Mike, our security guy, is doing more low-level stuff. So like the secure bootloader is his work and things like that. So basically, the problem is that we have a very small team, not enough code reviews, no really like certifications or whatever. So this is very, very welcome. And also regarding the Java card applet, for example, would be nice to review that, because this is the thing that is storing the secrets. So, but we also have this disclaimer in the repository that it is work in progress. I still think that Spectre can be used either for small amounts or as a signer in the multi-sig setup. Because I mean, I hope, I believe it will happen for sure, that the project will become more mature, and we will also be able to confidently say that, okay, this is now a secure hardware wallet that you can use for your main funds. But I mean, multisig is always better. It adds a little bit of complexity of the backup, but otherwise, as I was saying in all my talks, everything can be hacked, including our hardware wallet.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yeah.
Yeah. So, if we were to talk about using it as part of a multi-sig, so obviously you can use it as part of alongside Specter Desktop, which is a great multi-sig coordinator app. Can you tell us a little bit about what that looks like if you want to use it as part of a multi-sig quorum?
So basically, the setup is very similar to any other hardware wallet. So first, you need to get your master public keys into Spectre Desktop or any other coordinator, this is just scanning QR codes. After that, you can create the multi-signature wallet, and you need to import this wallet into the device. As I mentioned before, we are using this assumption. We are assuming that the hardware wallet knows about the multi-sig wallet, and also it helps the hardware wallet to verify the transaction. So if it knows about the wallet, then it can say that, okay, this is actually change, and this change goes back to exactly the same wallet. Or, for example, you have two outputs, and one goes to one wallet that I know, and another one goes to another wallet that I know. So for that, in Spectre Desktop, you just need to get the QR code with the descriptor of the wallet, and Spectre DIY just scans this descriptor and can calculate the addresses and all other information from that. So we are using Bitcoin Core descriptors as the definition of the wallet.
Right, and that's a more advanced feature also, as I don't think many other wallets are using output descriptors natively. So that's a cool point to note there. So I guess in practice, that's actually two descriptors, right? Because one would be, I forgot which one's which, but one's the internal chain and the external chain. One's the change chain, right? So I guess you would have both descriptors, right?
So we simplified it a bit such that we can scan only the receiving descriptor. And then if it is /0/star, then we can assume that the change descriptor is basically the same, just the derivation path is using /1//star. So basically, you can scan one descriptor and get a default receiving and change branches there. I
I see.
think that it would be nice to have like more general descriptors, such that you can define, okay, this is the receiving and this completely different thing is the change. But we didn't implement that yet. Would be nice to have, actually. Yeah, but we also don't see the demand really because everybody is using currently the default multisig and default descriptors. So we can live like this for now.
Yeah, I see. Yeah, and also, I'm curious about whether you would be interested to do this kind of feature or whether that already exists. Is this idea of so, for example, so let's say you want to use Michael Flaxman's guide and you want to do seed picker, and that guide currently you need to basically you would pick out 23 words and then the 24th word is a checksum. So is that something that you might be able to kind of internally calculate inside the wallet or on the device?
So we actually integrated this feature recently. So two features on the entropy side. The first one is you can use like meat-generated entropy. So you just throw the dices and pick the words at random, or like you use a hat with this all the words cutted, and you select 12, 18, or 24 words. And in Specter DIY, you start entering these words, and then when you hit to the 12th word and enter the last 12th word, it will suggest you to fix this word if it detects that the checksum is incorrect. So basically, you can generate the recovery phrase fully offline and with using only physical entropy, and then fix the last word similar to what seed picker does. So the only difference is that seed picker is adding the 24th word, and we instead are fixing the 24th word. So fixing makes it the whole process a little bit more deterministic. So instead of filling some bits with zeros, we actually use all the entropy of the user, but replace the checksum with the correct one. And then another interesting feature that we added recently, if you are not sure about how good is the true random number generator that is on the device, then when you are generating the recovery phrase, it first shows you the recovery phrase that you can use just like that, or you can click on every of the words, see the corresponding like 11-bit string, and then flip the bits. So basically, you can take, for example, 11 coins, shuffle them, and throw them and see which of the coins are heads and tails. And then on the corresponding word, you just flip the corresponding bits. So then you're basically XORing the entropy, mixing together the entropy that was generated by the hardware with your own physical entropy. And it is fully verifiable. It doesn't change any other word except the last one to maintain the correct checksum. And then you kind of improve your randomness even further, because if you are XORing two random numbers, the result is better than any of the incoming randomness, random
Yeah, I
things.
see.
Yeah.
So that's the again. So this is one of those points where I don't understand it fully myself, but there's this function called XOR, and so that basically mixes the randomness together, and that's kind of a function that helps you get additional randomness. But I wouldn't be able to explain any of the detail around exactly how it's doing that.
Yes,
But,
sorry for going a little bit into technical details, but I think that it is also like another level of paranoia. So, like, if you are very paranoid, then you probably want to figure out how this feature works and use it as well. Yeah, so you can use that.
Gotcha. Yeah, and so in terms of future plans, is what can you share with us there? I know. So recently, you were chatting a little bit about the use of a secure microcontroller.
So yeah, the interesting thing that I figured out in embedded conference last year, that now there is actually a microcontroller that is secure and doesn't require NDA. So Maxim Integrated, the company, American company, decided to make this experiment. They developed a chip that doesn't require NDA, but it has certain features like voltage and clock monitors that provide you some hardware security. So it is not like the high-grade secure element because, well, that kind of microcontrollers normally go through the certification, and then they require NDA because to get higher points in the certification, if your thing is closed source, you get extra points. And this one is slightly different, but still, it's the unique thing is that it doesn't require NDA and it has some hardware security. So we were thinking about using that and designing basically the boards that will look exactly the same as the Java card, that includes that microcontroller inside, and that can be a drop-in replacement for our current Java card implementation. So we will still maintain the Java card part and also make this fully open source version that you can control better and we can control better. So that's very nice. And
Yeah,
looking forward to this. Yeah.
Out of curiosity, do you know roughly how much that piece of equipment costs?
The microcontroller costs like $20, maybe $10. I don't know. They are really cheap. All the microcontrollers are very cheap. Even the secure element that is like high grade and NDA graded and so and certified, they cost nothing really. Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Anything else you can share with us in terms of future plans and what you're doing with Specter DIY?
So one important thing is we start the limited edition of limited sale of our developer kit, our Specter Shields. This is what I mentioned, that includes the QR code scanner, smart cards, and also we are cooperating with CryptoClocks to make the nice 3D printed casing for the board. And I think that we will put the shop online when this podcast is out. So basically, there you can buy either the fully assembled thing together with the discovery boards and the smart cards, or you can only get the this extension board and order the rest of the parts that are like security critical from random suppliers. It will be like Orange Pioneer Edition, 50 pieces. Because we want to get some initial feedback from the users to see what we can improve and how we can make it better. Because at the moment, there are a few people that actually assembled the DIY themselves and are using them, and we get some feedback from that. But currently, there is no easy way to get the smart card secure element support for it. So that's why we are starting that. Otherwise, on the future plans, let's see how it goes with the response of the community, and maybe we can do something like a fully manufactured version of Spectre DIY. So one thing to note here that we will always maintain the DIY kind of spirit of the project. So DIY first, and then all this stuff that we sell is more like for convenience, for lazy people, or for not very sophisticated people, right? I mean, it would be really, really nice to have more feedback, but also more contributions, because you can do many things with this hardware wallet, and really looking forward to things like Miniscript, maybe Lightning and CoinJoin, and Liquid Network. All these kind of things are really, really exciting. So let's see how it goes. Schnorr coming soon. That will be huge. Then other than that, Spectre, like the whole project, we tried to make it platform independent. So in principle, you don't have to use these discovery boards and everything, all the hardware that we selected, but actually it can be ported to anything else. So if you want to make a version that is with Bluetooth and using ESP32 or M5 stack or something like that, in principle it is possible to port it there. So I think it would be very nice to have maybe some documentation and the guide how exactly to port it, because then you spread the risk of the supply chain even further, because now people don't know what exactly you will buy for the Spectre DIY. And another interesting platform to look at is actually RISC-V microcontrollers that are coming. There are a few that are very powerful already. And RISC-V, as it is a new architecture, it also has some extra security features and also don't have legacy lying around and potentially introducing some random backdoors in your microcontroller. So that's
Yeah.
also nice.
Yeah.
And in general, sorry, just too many plans.
Actually, just on the risk point, RISC-V.
Yeah.
So my understanding with that, it stands for, I think, reduced instruction set computing or something like that. But essentially, it's like this whole push towards open hardware, right? So I guess the idea is we want not just open software, but we want open hardware, and this is part of the push in that direction, also, right?
RISC-V, it is a little bit tricky. Yeah, so it is a standardized instruction set, and then the idea is that any silicon vendor can implement the microcontroller that implements this set without a need to pay royalty fees. Uh, how open they are is a different question, because normally the microcontrollers are not just the core and the instruction set. They also put a lot of other components there. And most of the companies that are manufacturing RISC-V chips now, they still put proprietary stuff around it. But the nice thing is that you can actually take this instruction set and you put it, for example, on the FPGA, and it is like a more open and controllable platform where you basically define how transistors are wired together, and then have your own RISC-V microcontroller based on that. It will be a little bit more expensive, but it is way more open, so less probabilities of backdoors by the manufacturer or implementer. And I think one very important project in this space is Precursor by Bunny. So this is the RISC-V based communication device, basically that would be a replacement for your phone or for encrypted calls and things like that, and also like for storing the keys. And he's using exactly that, so FPGAs and RISC-V implementation there. And you can also just get rid of the wireless module there, and then you get a very interesting hardware wallet from it.
Very cool. Yeah, thanks for clarifying there. It's interesting to see what's happening with that stuff as well. I'm definitely excited to get a Specter DIY for myself, so I'll definitely be hitting up that web store when it's available. Also, wanted to just chat while we've got you here, also to chat a little bit about Specter Desktop updates. You guys have recently put out a new version, and you've got some, new features coming and things like that. So, can you tell us a little bit about the latest version and any highlights that you want to hit there?
So from the last time when we were on your podcast with Ben, many things happened. So we released the app that is actually a standalone app. We got the Tor support that is kind of working and improving that currently. We got replaced by fee. That is very important feature for high fees or crazy random fees that we currently have in Bitcoin. Then, in general, the app became much more stable, and this is mostly due to Ben and Kim. So Kim is not so loud contributor to Specter Desktop that is doing all the infrastructure continuous integration testing and stuff. So thanks to that, thanks to his work, we became much more stable, and now we are really aiming to get to version 1. So we still need to fix a few things, but other than that, I think in a month maybe we will get to version 1 that we can say that okay, Spectre Desktop is now stable and usable, and go for it. We can recommend it for sure. I can recommend it even now, but I know that there are bugs from time to time. And
I see.
it was super exciting to see how many people are actually using Spectre Desktop, and all this community support and shout outs. It's just crazy. So the whole team is so happy now.
Yeah, that's great. I
Yeah.
think it's yeah, you've had a really good community response. I think a lot of people were looking for something like this. I was also curious. The recent version, it mentions an offline mode. Can you tell us a little bit about how that works?
Yeah, so this I mentioned it a little bit earlier about this AirGap laptop. So the offline mode is that if you have an old laptop and Wi-Fi doesn't work, or you can turn it off, for example, or you buy cheap laptops where you can get rid of the Wi-Fi, then you can put there basically a couple binaries, Bitcoin Core and Specter Desktop. And then you can use it as a signer. So Bitcoin Core will be signing the transactions. Spectre Desktop will take care of the user interface and scanning of the QR codes and displaying the QR codes. And then, yeah, your old laptop can become a pretty good air gap machine that is used as one more signer. So you probably know about this Glacier protocol, something
Yeah.
like that. Yeah, so I think that they recommend using air gap laptops as signers. But the user flow, user interface, and kind of all the complexity of the setup is a little bit uh, too much for me, I would say.
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Uh, and so we tried to implement this in a little bit more user-friendly way. And yeah, we tested recently and it works, and it works really great. So on this air-gapped laptop, you can verify the change, you can see the outputs, the addresses, and everything, and you still use signing functionality of Bitcoin Core. So yeah, if you trust Bitcoin Core, then this is probably a pretty good candidate for
Yeah.
one of the signers.
Yeah. Also, sorry, I might have you might have mentioned this, but I think I missed it. So, does the Spectre offline mode does that actually have private keys, or how are you managing that in terms of the private key part of it for the offline one?
So yeah, on the offline mode, what you create hot Bitcoin Core wallet, even though it is not hot if it is offline. But yeah, then you enter your recovery phrase there, and then this recovery phrase is converted to private keys and loaded into Bitcoin Core. So if you want to keep it fully stateless, then you probably need to clean up Bitcoin Core after that. So just delete the wallet files that Spectre created. Otherwise, it stores private keys in Bitcoin Core wallet. But I think that you also can encrypt it. So Bitcoin Core wallet functionality supports encryption with a long password. Or I think if you use something like a stateless OS, like Tails, for example, it will clean everything up for you automatically.
Yeah. Great. And also with the Tor support, is that Windows and Mac, and essentially you what would you use that to? Would you use that to try and automatically connect back to your? Let's say you've got a Bitcoin Core node running at home. Is that the idea, or what would you? How would you
Yeah,
use
so
that?
this is the idea that you have a node in the box, either my nodes or Raspberry Blitz or your own homebrew thing or Umbro. And if it has Spectre or if it exposes Bitcoin RPC over Tor, then you connect to it from your laptop. So basically, in this case, what you need, you can have this remote Spectre that is running on your node, that is managing all the wallets and watching all the addresses and prepares the transaction. And then you have the app on your laptop that is providing the access to the hardware wallets for this remote Spectre. So this is one of the models. So you can avoid running Bitcoin Core on your laptop and still use Spectre for signing with your hardware wallets while you are somewhere on a trip or not at home. And alternatively, if you don't run remote Spectre, this Spectre on the node, and you just expose Bitcoin RPC over Tor, then you can also connect to Bitcoin RPC from your laptop and also basically do the same. Yeah.
I see, yeah. And that might be obviously handy if you have, multi-sig and you've got keys in different locations and you've got the laptop and you need to go around to, get signatures and
Hmm.
etc. to build the transaction and blah, blah, blah.
Yeah, I
Um,
think so.
yeah. One other one, would you consider bundling Bitcoin Core straight into Specter Desktop just to make it like a one double click install for like newbie Bitcoiners?
I think it would be interesting as an option because, well, I mean, people use Spectre in very different scenarios. So we could have like a toggle in the settings that either I want to use a built-in Bitcoin Core node, and then you configure it. Either you want to use it pruned or whatever, or you connect to existing Bitcoin Core node. So I don't think that it will happen until version 1 at least. So it is an interesting feature, but it is not on the roadmap right now. But we keep in mind that that might be easier. And I also feel like people that are using Spectre Desktop and trying to do like this multi-sig and things, they probably want to be sure that Bitcoin Core that they downloaded is actually coming from bitcoincore.org.
Yeah,
So
I see. Yeah.
yeah, maybe, but a little bit later.
Yeah, sure. That totally makes sense to me. Also wanted to just chat about pruning while we're here as well. So right now, if you want to download the Bitcoin blockchain, I mean, as of November 2020, we're talking about 350 gigabytes of download. Or otherwise, if you want to prune it, I think you can do, let's say, 5 or 10 gigs worth. Can you just tell us a little bit about the trade-offs there if a user wants to do Spectre Desktop in pruned mode versus doing the full download, and then I guess what I'm asking is what's the impact in terms of wallet scanning and wallet use if we're on a pruned version?
Mm-hmm. So yeah, the pruned node, it will still download all 300 gigs of blockchain data and verify that. But while it is downloading it, it will also erase like old blocks. So it will maintain your hard drive usage to like 10 gigs or so. And this means that you cannot easily rescan if you are creating or importing the old wallet that already has a transaction history. So what we currently implement is you can rescan the UTXO set. So you can find all your unspent transactions. But then in order to import them into the Bitcoin Core, you also need proofs that this transaction is actually included in a certain block. And at the moment with the pruned node, it is not possible. So we have a privacy concerning workaround that you can use a block explorer, for example, Blockstream info, to get these proofs. And then you can import this into your Bitcoin Core. The idea here is that, you kind of tell potentially chain analysis companies what transactions you are interested in, but then at least you can use the wallet. So we may add, we will add an alternative to that, such that after rescanning this UTXO set, when we know that we need this and this and this block, we can just connect to our peers on the Bitcoin network and download these blocks directly and then parse them and get the proofs ourselves. But it is still in process. Yeah, so at the moment, the trade-off is that right now you need to communicate with Block Explorer if you want to get your unspent, and you cannot get full transaction history. Yeah.
I see. So currently, if let's say you prune it, you run it pruned, and then you want to start a new wallet on the Spectre Desktop. Let's say I got a new Spectre DIY, and it was already pruned, right? So I didn't set it up before the pruning. Then does the app as currently configured or app as currently coded, does it automatically do that fetching from blockstream.info, or how does that work?
It doesn't do any fetching automatically, so you control it always from the user interface. So if you're creating a new wallet, then it will not even try to rescan. So it is assuming that it is a fresh new wallet that doesn't have any funds, and you can use it as normal. Uh, and if you are actually triggering the rescan, then you have a checkbox. Either you want to connect to Block Explorer to get this data or not. And if you don't, then, well, probably you will get only a fraction of UETXOs that are in the blocks that are not pruned yet. Yeah, so this is the problematic part. An alternative is that when you start your prompt node, you also create the wallets in Specter Desktop. And then if they are loaded during this full rescan of the blockchain, it will also get all the transactions from there. So this is an alternative for old wallets. But for the new wallet, you don't really need a full node. So you can easily use it with a prompt and without any privacy concerns.
Great. Also, you might have touched on this earlier, but I'm wondering whether that's also a future idea, whether you would look at that kind of thing of, some, for example, Umbrel uses like a neutrino style and then transitions over to the full node. Is that something you would look at with Spectre of using, compact block filters and things like that to try and give people the ability to more quickly start up? Is that something that you could do, or is that kind of more like not an immediate
I think
goal?
it is a very interesting thing, and one feature that is missing in Bitcoin Core at the moment that would be very useful is to be able to use these block filters while using a pruned node. Because okay, the pruned node during the sync is downloading all the blocks, so it could potentially calculate all these neutrino filters. And then you can use that to recover your full transaction history, at least find the blocks that you care about. So we can do something like that, like to build a custom block filter builder in Spectre Desktop that is checking out your pruned node and for every box calculates this neutrino filters. That would work. Or we can connect to the nodes that provide these block filters. The problem here is that there are not too many nodes that announce this feature. So you have a limited set of nodes that can give you these neutrino filters. And also, you cannot really verify these filters unless you download the block. So they can lie about that. But on the other hand, there is no real reason for lying you about that because, well, what is the benefit? So in principle, we can connect to these nodes and get all the block filters for all the blocks. And then from this information, we can get the information what blocks we need for the transaction history and then get these blocks and then get the transaction history. It's a little bit complicated, but it is definitely a very interesting thing to try out. And I was thinking about that in the background for the last month or so. And hopefully, I will find some time and prototype something that would work with neutrino filters.
That's awesome. Yeah, and I just want to say I'm a big fan of Spectre Desktop. I think it's a great piece of software. I really like using it, and I can see why it's been so popular amongst the Bitcoin community, at least amongst my listeners and the people I'm chatting with. Definitely very useful piece of software that actually makes multi-sig actually quite a good experience for the user there. So definitely really appreciate the work you and the team are doing on that. Um, uh, and I suppose might be a good point to wrap up here. So, do you want to just tell the listeners why should they be looking at Spectre DIY? Why should they go and get one, and where can they get one if they're interested to get that?
First, before I go to the DIY wrap up, I want to shout out to the team, to Ben, Kim, Morris, and Mike, who are doing an amazing job kind of pushing forward our project. So I'm very happy to have them in the team. And yeah, I love you guys. And regarding the DIY, first of all, it's a lot of fun. And it is a very interesting piece of hardware that you should definitely check out. And second, it is very different from the security models of other hardware wallets. So why not to include it in the multisig if you have the capabilities? Uh, yeah, so feedback is very, very, very welcome. And we will keep improving both Specter Desktop and Specter DIY in the upcoming months. And to get it, it should be, I think, shop.specter.solutions. And yeah, you can just check the checkbox there and get our extension shield, or check out the shopping document in the repository and just get everything yourself and assemble it. It is very usable without anything from us, and I think this is also a great thing.
Fantastic. So listeners, you can find the links. They will be in the show notes, stefanlivera.com/231 for this episode. Stepan, thank you very much for joining me today.
Thank you very much for having me. I'm really enjoying talking to you every time.
All right, make sure you go and support Stepan and the team. I'm a big fan of what they're doing, so definitely go and check them out. Thanks for listening, and I'll see you in the Citadels.